Let me introduce quickly our speakers. Judy Munro is a Senior Managing Director of Robert Half Executive Search. So is normally dealing with searching and recruiting C-suite, C-level people. She's working mainly in Toronto, Canada, but Robert Half is around the world. Judy Munro was also director of AIBA when I was also director of AIBA. This is where I met her. Michael Augello is senior advisor, expert of business analysis. He was also director of AIBA for 8 years and was also board chair of AIBA. And the third person which I had invited, it's Harold Brose, is a principal consultant in Toronto and is also president of the IABA Toronto chapter. So let me say, I would like to conduct this panel session. I would like to go through 3 questions and ask the opinion of each of you individually. If you feel that you don't have much information or you don't feel comfortable in answering or giving information about that question, you can skip it. So let me start with the first question. Let's start with Michael. Michael is from Australia. Harold and Judy are from Canada. So Michael, the first question is, how is relevant business analysis in your country and why companies are investing on business analysis?
Well, in my country, in Australia, business analysis is very relevant. There is very strong demand for business analysts, business analysis, and it might not be, Michele, just the title business analyst. It could be product owner, data analyst, process analyst. There's many different titles, but in general, business analysis is very strong, and we see that in big numbers in things like LinkedIn, where they advertise for jobs. And I personally, Michele, it was really strange. I was getting calls from all my my network saying, Michael, you know people. Send them to our company. We need more people. We need more BAs. So there's very strong demand. And we also see, Michele, in Australia, the salaries of business analysts going higher and higher. And there is some evidence, I'm not the expert, but there is some evidence to say that business analysis salaries are now going higher than project managers, such as the demand, which is very interesting. And another little trend, another trend is that when some companies are starting to launch new projects, we'll call them projects, they may be products, but new projects, the first person they onboard and get to help start the project, we're seeing more and more as a business analyst. And they get a business analyst in to understand the need, do some analysis of what the problem is before going any further and before growing the project team and then before hiring a project manager. So there's some interesting trends. I'll leave it there. Perhaps I've got more to say, but I'll leave it there for now. I'll see what Judy and Harold have to say, and maybe I'll come back.
Well, I'll give you the perspective from Canada, and certainly the perspective of what employers are asking for. And so, as Michele said, I'm with Robert Half. We're one of the largest recruiters in the world, and we recruit a great deal of technology roles. And the highest demand role we have in our technology division are BAs. And that is not changing, and not likely to change. And as Michael alluded to, you know, in his country, in Australia, salaries are rising. Well, with demand comes rising salaries, and we are seeing that same trend in Canada. So it is a very high demand role. The vacancies in those roles are near record highs, and it's very relevant. And as Michael also said, it's usually at the front end of a project or a product. And that's all being driven by the digital transformation that you see globally happening everywhere in the world. So BAs are very much front and center and at the front end of every one of these digital transformation initiatives that companies are going through right now. So I would agree with Michael, it's very relevant. It is high demand and salaries are rising, and that's all good news for BAs.
Bravo. Yes, I'd agree. Yes, thank you.
So in just to follow up on all that, business analysis is just by its parts very much in demand in organizations. And I've noticed a trend amongst senior business analysts where companies will poach their own internal business analysts who have strong competencies and at the same time have strong communication and relationship skills. And they will put them into new roles or new groups, to what Judy's saying about digital transformations, and that takes on different ways and looks all the time. And they are looking for the ability of a senior business analyst who can work between business and IT. They're looking for a senior business analyst who is good at the analysis before you start something, or once you have a strategy and you want to determine what the initiative is, or once you have an initiative, you want to determine what the actual outcomes are going to be. So in terms of facilitation and shared understanding, the senior business analyst is very much something that is needed. And there seems to be a bit of a rollback to the times when the BAs and the PMs were a single role, project managers. And sometimes a business analyst makes a better product owner because they're not going to default to a project management mindset in the business. So yeah, the needs for it are very relevant. And actually the fear or threat of a recession makes the business analyst more valuable to an organization. Mm-hmm. Because they want to make sure that if they're working on a project, that it is scoped properly, it's got the right budget, it's got the right outcome that is defined, and that realistically, when people get involved in this, what they start, they will reasonably finish. Like things get in the way, and the longer it takes to do a project, the more that gets in the way. But organizations very easily, by just bringing in business analysts, are able to better manage time and costs. There's a lot more, but that's enough for now.
I just want to add to what Harold is saying. You know, from a recruitment perspective, one of the things that a lot of employers are looking for is exactly what Harold is speaking to: a blend of the BA competencies along with project management competencies is also in demand. And particularly, and when I speak about Canada, a lot of, I should say, just to put it in context, we recruit for a lot of small to medium enterprise. And the reason for that is very simple. Large enterprise generally has their own internal recruitment teams. So all of what I'm telling you is really based on anecdotal evidence. What are our recruiters being asked for? And so one of the things they did tell me about was this request for blending project management and BA skills. And as Harold spoke to, it's not just, front-ending and validating why you're entering into a project and for all the right reasons, but also bringing that in on time, on budget, using your project management skills. So we see a lot of that request for that BM certification in particular, but they're looking for a BA with that certification.
That's very interesting, Judy, Harold, Michael. Within the community of business analysts, normally we tend to connect the business analyst to the phrase, do the right project, and then the project manager to do the project right. So it seems that companies are investing on BAs and PM because they want to make sure to do the right project right. That's why they are, this is the trend that you're seeing. That's why they invest in these two competencies. What is also important here, it's the fact that sometimes company make business analyst evolve to the role of project manager as well. So there are BAs and PM, as well as make project manager evolve to the role of BAs. So they are PM and BAs. But the point is that these two mindsets of BAs and PM are completely different. I always used to say that a business analyst is a detective. He always has to discover things. He makes a lot of questions, you know, Sherlock Holmes that ask many questions because he wants to discover and connect the dots of what is said. While the head of a project manager is more organization, planning and controlling. So two mindsets completely different, and putting together these two different mindsets, not only competencies, in the same person sometimes is not easy. So that's the point.
I think you see this trend mostly with companies who don't have a project management office. That's where they aren't separating the two roles.
Okay. That's also an important standpoint. Yep.
Also, there is no single anymore. There's no single project manager, business analyst. And so for the project manager, there's just one definition. For the business analyst, there's one definition. If you go into PMBOK 6, in chapter 3.1, it does state, first of all, that a project manager is also a business analyst. A lot of project managers like and do a good job in business analysis and vice versa, because ultimately project management is a perspective on management. If you go to SAFe has the definition of lean management practices in a safe, agile environment. The business analyst is quite capable and competent. In Detroit, one of the insurance companies actually started using the business analyst as their manager because they felt that the business analyst was better able to deliver the outcomes. Whereas I've heard it said, and I don't disagree with this, a project manager has one stakeholder, the sponsor. A business analyst has at least a dozen stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that needs to reflect in the result. And a lot of times the business analyst is more capable of delivering the value at the end. Whereas,
so,
yeah,
sorry, Harold. Michele, the audience here today, all the people listening in, are they working more in an agile environment, or what would you say?
Well, I think they are a mix. Agile projects are growing very fast in Italy. So I think they are a mix, and most of them, I believe, they have had already an agile experience in projects.
Yeah, because sometimes what we've been talking about, we've been moving more the discussion into project management and business analysis. I think we'll find that many of our audience are working on products where there's no project manager. Maybe, I don't know, there's different titles.
Yeah.
And,
yes, exactly. In Agile, the title of project manager, it disappeared, but project management did not disappear. It's just the title of the role.
Now, one more thing before we move on. Although I agree with exactly what Judy and Harold's saying, the same trends, digital transformation, data, the importance of data analytics, all the same trends around the world. The interesting thing is, and we need to continue and have forums like this to continue the education and the storytelling, because in Australia, for instance, it's not well understood across the whole of the country. Some parts of Australia and some companies really understand business analysis, and they're in strong demand, no doubt. We see that all over the world, probably. Well, Judy and Harold are saying the same thing. However, it's not consistent across Australia, and even in some of the large companies I've been doing some advisory work in. One department really understands business analysis, and they use them the way I think we would all like to see business analysis used. But in another department, the general manager does not understand business analysis and is way behind. That's in the same company. It's a big bank, but it's not consistent. So I think we as a community have to continue educating, doing the advocacy, championing, and lots more storytelling.
I want to speak briefly to the point about agile environments. One other certification that we're seeing a lot of is Scrum Master in the BA role. So that is another request that's being made by employers, either PM certification or Scrum Master certification, depending on whether it's an agile environment. So we do see that quite frequently as well.
That's interesting. The BA is evolving towards a Scrum Master in agile environments. Not only, I thought that it was very normal to have the BA in the product owner role, but not only that role, but also Scrum Master. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are a few organizations where they've got their BA as the product owner, and the product owner is managing both the business side, as in the marketing, the branding, the profit and loss statement.
Yeah.
And they're also handling the delivery side.
Yeah.
Additionally, you go down the road and you'll find an organization, but in that case, you also will find that they have BAs that still support that initiative or that
Yes.
set of teams, right? And then if you go down the road, you'll find an organization that is still very comfortable running their organization using PMBOK 3 or 4, forget about 6 or 7. And they're very comfortable with BAWI 2, which is more project focused, instead of BAWI 3, which is more going across the enterprise.
To your point, Harold, where we see it a lot is in software technology companies. And that's where the BA is working with, he's the product owner working with sales and marketing. So that functionally they're part of the sales and marketing team, although they're within a technology company. So we see that structure quite a lot.
Wow, thank you. It's a very interesting perspective. Every year we have an event in our Italy chapter, which is called the PM MBA, the dynamic duo. Project manager, business analyst working together, complementary roles like a dynamic duo. So I think that normally we do this at the beginning of every year. We can keep alive the discussion about the complementarity of these two roles, project manager and business analyst. Let me jump to the second question. What type of business analyst are the organization most asking in these days? What competencies are searching, nurturing? And if business analysis certifications, not only in general IIBA certifications, also PMI has business analysis certification or other entity in UK. So are they requested? What is in your view?
I'm gonna kick that one off because we're in the recruiting world, as you know. We don't get a lot of requests for BA certifications, which I found interesting in talking to our recruiters. As I mentioned earlier, the requested certifications are PMs or Scrum Masters, but we do get requests for BAs with some kind of technical knowledge in a particular area. So they have a specialty, a technical specialty. And I did ask our recruiters, what were the areas of technical competence that were most requested? And they were CRM business BAs with knowledge of Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics, high requests for ERP business analysts with knowledge of MS, Microsoft Dynamics and SAP, And in particular, those with a database management background and knowledge of data. That is certainly one that's in huge demand these days and leading the forefront of a lot of the requests, and in particular having knowledge of SQL language. There's still a lot of migration, infrastructure migration from on-prem to cloud premises, a lot of BAs being requested to assist with that migration. So that is still well underway, and that's having knowledge of Azure or AWS, cloud infrastructure is very important. And cybersecurity hasn't gone away. It's still there. And having some knowledge of cybersecurity, and I suspect that one's never going to go away. It's only going to become more and more critical. So those are some of the technical areas together with, the BA competencies that are most requested. So, from the perspective of where's demand, if you want to increase your profile or your demand as a BA, specialize in one of these emerging technology areas and having some knowledge in those areas, and certified, in Salesforce or MS Dynamics or, AWS or Azure will give you an edge in those particular requirements.
It's very interesting, Judy. I would like to hear Michael and Harold before I make my comment.
There's two ways to look at this. I had spoke with Judy a few days back, and I appreciated very much what she was saying. There's a significant focus on a technical aspect. And Judy, what would you say? Is it junior, intermediate, senior, specialist? What would that be?
Yeah, no, clearly this would be more at the practitioner level. This would be junior to intermediate BAs where this technical competence is being acquired. And I think as you move to more senior roles, I would say that technical piece is less and less important.
So I was thinking about what you had said as I was in a few meetings in the last couple of days. And one thing I came to appreciate, and this is something for everyone to be aware of, look at your organization and see what roles and opportunities they are looking inside the organization for in terms of senior or very senior roles. Because organizations at some point they don't want to call Judy. Well, they want to call Judy, but they're going to start with, can we build this ourselves? And sometimes because they want your experience with your organization, take it into a new space. So I know with cybersecurity, for instance, a few organizations, they found people who had great communication skills and were good at collaborating. And then they took those people and threw them into cybersecurity to deal with a lot of service managers who only saw it their own way and they weren't willing to see it any other way. So now they're doing some of the more elicitations, they're doing some modeling, and they're helping that communication. And the big focus is they're helping them stay on budget and stay on timelines. You got a question there. Why should a BA need, oops, we lost that. I thought that was a good question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why should a BA need to have technical competencies? Wouldn't it be sufficient to have knowledge of these technologies? Because direct experience with projects or technologies. So we perpetually will have gaps. We will always have gaps. My recommendations to companies are take 3% of your work week, which doesn't add up to that much, but make yourself available to ask someone, I got a gap, help me. Or say, let someone approach you and say, I got a gap, help me. This helps, so you can always get your certifications or not. The most important thing is always be relevant to your organization. If you want to look at another organization, then be relevant to their competency requirements. So, yeah, but it's a lot of organizations. Actually, one way to look at this is don't so much look at what does the organization want in terms of competencies and skills. If we go to a 20th century architect, Louis Kahn, he would always say, all your descriptions of BA and PMs and all that is just marketplace determinations. Look at what competencies and outcomes the organization needs, and how can you fit it? Because, I'm working with some companies where they have SAFE, and they're saying, how does the BA fit in? And I'm like, what? So we went through it. It doesn't take long. You go to skilledagileframework. I think it's org or com, and everything there. There's a need for communication. There's a need for analysis. There's a need for modeling. There's always a need for a business analyst. So, and you don't always go by the name of business analyst. If you look at it, the business analyst can have easily 20 or 30 other titles. Does that help, Michael?
Yeah, I'm curious to the question. Michaela, can you interpret the question for me a bit better?
Or ask him to ask it.
Okay, wouldn't
no, why don't we just ask? He's on there. He's on the camera.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Calagero, is that?
Yeah, you can call me Jerry. You can call me Jerry. Okay. So
yeah.
on our certificate, that's the full name.
And you can call me Michele. And you can call me Michele. I'll switch. I'll go from Michael to Michele, and I'll call you Jerry.
Thank you, Michele.
Go ahead.
No, I agree with that. The marketplace today requires these kinds of technical competencies. I see a lot of them. I'm right now in my last day of work. I'm transitioning to a new job. So I've been pretty active on the marketplace and see what is required. And sometimes it really upset me, all these vertical knowledge about such technologies like SAP, AWS. But the way I interpreted the role is, yeah, you need to know what they are. You might have some good experience because you had the opportunity to work on projects that involve those technologies, but being really an expert with the certified competencies in, again, a CRM really doesn't make sense. But there is a gap age. I am 56. I'm very mature in experience, and so I can't probably face any kind of role in the BA domain. Maybe as Madame Jury Munro say, this is something more required when you are junior. They want you to specialize in something, and this is the way in the marketplace. This is what I do understand. But I want to ask you the question just to make sure how much is important versus experience and knowledge versus the specific technical competencies.
Experience and knowledge every day. Great. Over certifications. So if you have that firsthand knowledge and experience working with those types of systems, that's fantastic. But absolutely right, Jerry. So when you're starting out, so how do you enhance your knowledge? Get some certification, pick an area of passion, or, and get a specialization that's going to give you an edge in getting that role. But for sure, knowledge and experience in those areas is clearly what they're looking for. And if you don't have it, well, a certification will help.
Yeah, and that's the BA leaders I speak to in Australia are very much like Jerry and what Judy has just said as well. The more senior people, the people who have got wide experience, that we know we are technology agnostic, so to speak. We can work in multiple domains, and we learn fast, and we can add value very quickly, and we can see the patterns. And sometimes we can bring the experiences of another domain, go figure, another domain, another technology, and there's learnings from that can be applied to the other domain, be it another industry or another technical domain. So we see that as senior, more experienced people, absolutely. However, Judy's also right. Some less mature organizations who are hiring less mature individuals, they definitely want to see hard experience, real experience in that platform, in that technology. And it can be very frustrating for some of us. And even when I went out to 4 or 5 trusted BA leaders, senior BA leaders, hiring managers in Australia, and even amongst them is a little bit of, you know, should we go this way? Should we go that way? It's very interesting. And I, as a coach, I coach and mentor a lot of BAs, not only in Australia, but around the world. And what I've always said is what Judy said before. I always tell people, follow your passion. And it probably makes sense to specialize a little bit where your passion is. So if you have a passion in data, go for it. If you have a passion in cyber analytics, cyber security, maybe go down a little bit and then elevate. But then what I think maybe Michele will talk about the body of knowledge later on. The body of knowledge has got a lot of underlying competencies, and that's the glue that we can move around from area to area because of the underlying competencies.
So one comment there for Jerry.
Yes,
if you think about it, so as Judy mentions, when you're starting up, you got to have your checklist of things you got to have. But once you're in the organization and once you've qualified for that first job, how long is it going to be before they say, you know what, we got a new one for you. You know nothing about it, but we know you can do it. So to get in the door, you got to know what you're doing. You got to have your certificates. Once you're in the door, there's enough times they're just going to throw you at something completely brand new. To what Michael is saying, for the people I coach, a big component of them is they're shifting from one space to another space, not even by their own choosing. Organizations are saying, I want you to do this. I want you to handle marketing and a budget, and I want you to become the project manager. And they're like, I'm a BA. I don't do budgets. I don't do, I don't do profit and loss statements. I don't do branding. Well, you do now. Get busy. So yeah, a lot of things.
By the way, we start introducing the perspectives in our bubble guide in this direction, because we understood that there are some verticalization of business analysis towards data, towards IT, towards agility, towards architecture and things like that. So there was an intuition within IIBA that this sort of verticalization is something that is requested somehow.
Just to your point, if you go to BAWI2022, chapter 1.6, there's a list of 18 areas where IIBA went to understand what business analysis is. And it lists 18 of them, several of them which are now in chapter 11 in BAWI3. So yeah, you could apply comfortably business analysis to at least 30 or 40 different spaces. And organizations keep changing that. It's not us who are leading that. Organizations keep evolving it and say, I like this and I want it over there. And then they call Judy and they say, now find me that person.
One last question, and I kindly ask you to be as fast as you can. Speaking about the bubble guide, do you have evidence that it is requested and used by the organization professionals in your country? How is demanded this framework?
The short answer is yes, very strong, and is clearly a guide. It's just a guide. That's all it is. It's a guide, and it helps many organizations and continues to. That's the short answer.
Thank you, Michael. Harold?
So the short answer is yes. To elaborate on that, not only do they want the BAWI, but the BAWI now, in a lot of areas, you can't use just the BAWI without using the product or the cybersecurity or the agile. So they all contribute. And those 3 other guides, they also describe differently what a business analysis practice is or practitioner role is. So yeah, it's valuable. For the actual practitioner, the most valuable thing about it is the day after you get your certifications. Use it to become influential in your organization. Develop a management consulting mindset, because your organization needs guidance on how to evolve their practices. And you don't want to leave it to someone who's in PMBOK 3. Did I say that? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Judy?
Judy, do you have a say on this?
No, I'm afraid I'm going to leave that one to our practicing BAs on this panel, of which I am not one.
Okay. So let me thank you very much, Harold Bros, Judy Munro, and Michael Augello for your speech. And it's important to see what is happening in other countries far from Europe. That's United States and Canada and Australia. Thank you very much for your speech.